The first thing Park Taiho felt was cold. It was not the cold of space, which he knew well after 10 years as a captain. This was different. This cold came from inside his bones, like ice water running through his blood. He tried to open his eyes, but they felt heavy. His head hurt badly. The last thing he remembered was sitting in the captain's chair of his ship, the Horizon. They were on a simple mission, just checking a small planet near the edge of known space. Nothing special. Nothing dangerous. Then there was light. Bright blue light that came from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. After that, nothing. Now Taiho forced his eyes open. He blinked many times. The light around him was soft and purple. The light around him was soft and purple. He was lying on something hard and smooth, like glass but warmer. He sat up slowly and looked around. He was in a room, but it was not like any room he had ever seen. The walls were made of something that looked like crystal. They glowed with soft light from inside. There were no corners in this room. Everything was curved and smooth. The ceiling was high above him, disappearing into darkness. Taiho stood up. His legs felt weak, but they held him. He was still wearing his uniform. His captain's jacket was dirty, but not torn. He checked his pockets. Empty. His communication device was gone. His small knife was gone. Everything useful was gone. He walked to the nearest wall and touched it. It was warm under his fingers. He could feel a soft vibration, like the wall was alive. He pushed against it, but it did not move. He walked around the room, looking for a door. There was none. "Hello?" he called out. His voice echoed strangely in the crystal room. "Is anyone there?" No answer came. Taiho sat down on the floor and tried to think. He was a prisoner. That much was clear. But who had taken him, and why? The planet they were studying had shown no signs of life. Their sensors had checked it 3 times. He thought about his crew. There were 12 people on the horizon. Good people. His friends. Were they here too? Were they safe? Or were they still on the ship, wondering what had happened to their captain? Time passed. Taiho did not know how much. There was no way to tell in this strange room. The light never changed. There were no sounds except his own breathing. Then something happened. Part of the curved wall began to glow brighter. The crystal seemed to melt away, forming an opening. Taiho jumped to his feet and stepped back. A figure walked through the opening. Taiho stared at it. He had met many alien species in his years of space travel, but he had never seen anything like this. The being was tall, taller than any human. Its body was thin and graceful, with long arms and legs. Its skin was blue, not painted blue but truly blue, like the deep ocean on Earth. The skin seemed to glow softly from inside, just like the crystal walls. The face was almost human, but not quite. The eyes were large and silver, with no visible pupils. The nose was small. The lips were thin and pale. There was no hair on its head. Instead, there were delicate patterns on the skull. Like frost on a window. The being wore a simple white robe that reached the floor. It moved without sound, its feet barely touching the ground. Taiho did not move. He did not speak. He just watched. The being stopped a few steps away from him. It tilted its head slightly, studying him with those silver eyes. Then it spoke. "You are awake." The words were in his language. Perfect pronunciation. But the voice was strange. It sounded like music and whispers mixed together. "Where am I?" Taiho asked. He was surprised by how calm his voice sounded. "Who are you? Why am I here?" The being did not answer immediately. It continued to study him, its silver eyes moving over his face, his body, his hands. "You are aboard the ship of the Valari," it finally said. "I am called Keeper of New Ones. I watch those who are brought here. Brought here? Taiho felt anger rising in his chest. You mean kidnapped, stolen, taken against my will? The keeper tilted its head the other way. These words mean little to me. You are here now. That is what matters. It matters to me, Taiho said firmly. I am the captain of a ship. I have a crew. They need me. You had no right to take me. For a moment, something flickered in those silver eyes. Taiho was not sure, but it almost looked like curiosity. You speak of rights, the keeper said. This is interesting. Many species we collect speak only of fear, or anger, or begging. You speak of rights. Collect? The word made Taiho's stomach turn. You collect people? Like insects? Like specimens? We study, the keeper corrected. We learn. The Valari have traveled the stars for longer than your species has existed. We have seen civilizations rise and fall. We have watched species grow and die. We collect samples. We study them. We learn. Taiho took a deep breath. He needed to stay calm. Getting angry would not help him. How long have I been here? He asked. By your measurement of time, 3 of your days. 3 days. His crew would be looking for him by now. They would have sent messages to Earth. Search teams would be coming. He just needed to stay alive until they found him. What will happen to me? He asked. The keeper was quiet for a moment. Then it spoke in a different tone, almost gentle. You will be studied. Your body, your mind, your history. Your species is young but interesting. You adapt quickly. You learn fast. You have something that many older species have lost. What is that? Hope, the keeper said. Even now, I can see it in your eyes. You believe you will escape. You believe someone will save you. This is rare. Most species, when they reach a certain age, they lose this. They become tired. They accept. But humans always hope. Taiho did not know what to say to this. It was true. Even now, trapped in this crystal cell, he believed he would find a way out. He believed he would see his crew again. He believed he would go home. I want to see the others, he said. Other humans. Are there any here? The keeper shook its head slowly. You are the first of your kind on this ship. We have studied humans before, long ago. But you are the first in many of your generations. This was both good and bad news. Good because his crew was probably safe. Bad because he was alone. The keeper turned to leave. The wall began to glow again, ready to open. Wait, Taiho called out. You said you study species. What happens after? When you're done studying? Do you let them go? The keeper stopped. It did not turn around. Some are returned. Some stay. Some are chosen. Chosen? Chosen for what? Now the keeper did turn. Its silver eyes seemed brighter than before. Chosen by the queen, it said. Our Queen Yuna of the 3rd dynasty. She leads our people. She decides who stays and who goes. She decides everything. And when will I meet this queen? The keeper made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was soft and musical. You do not meet the queen. The queen meets you. If she wishes. When she wishes. Then it walked through the opening in the wall. The crystal closed behind it, and Taiho was alone again. He sat down on the floor. His mind was racing with thoughts. The Valari, a species older than humanity. They collected other beings like scientists collecting samples. And there was a queen who decided everything. Taiho looked at his hands. They were shaking slightly. He closed them into fists to make them stop. He would not give up. He would not accept this. He was Park Taiho, captain of the horizon. He had survived storms in space. He had survived engine failures and food shortages and 100 other dangers. He would survive this too. The hours passed. Or what felt like hours. Taiho tried to sleep, but the floor was hard and his mind was too active. He exercised instead, doing push-ups and sit-ups and stretches. He needed to keep his body strong. He needed to be ready for whatever came next. Sometimes the wall would open, and a small platform would slide in with food and water. The food was strange, soft cubes of different colors. They had no taste that Taiho could recognize, but they filled his stomach. The water was clean and cold. He tried to talk to whoever brought the food, but no one ever appeared. The platform just slid in and out on its own. On what might have been the 5th day, something different happened. Taiho was doing his exercises when the wall opened again. But this time, the opening was bigger. Much bigger. 2 Valari walked in. They were different from the keeper. These ones wore dark clothes that looked like armor. Their blue faces showed no expression. They carried long staffs that glowed with green light. "Come," one of them said. It was not a request. Taiho stood up straight. "Where are we going?" "You are called. The Queen wishes to see you." Taiho's heart beat faster. The Queen, the one who decided everything. He would finally meet her. He walked between the 2 guards. They led him through hallways made of the same crystal as his cell. Everything glowed with soft light. There were no windows, no signs, nothing to show where they were going. They passed other cells. Taiho tried to look inside, but the crystal was dark. He could not see if there were others like him, trapped and waiting. Finally, they reached a large door. It was made of something different, something darker than the crystal walls. Patterns were carved into it, patterns that seemed to move when Taiho looked at them. The guards stopped. One of them pressed its hand against the door. The patterns glowed, and the door began to open. "Enter," the guard said. "The Queen waits." Taiho took a deep breath. Then he walked through the door into the chamber beyond. The room was enormous. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into darkness. The walls were lined with the same dark material as the door. And there, at the far end of the room, was a throne made of light. On the throne sat T. The throne room was silent. Taiho stood in the center of the vast chamber, looking up at the Queen who sat so still she might have been a statue. The guards who had brought him stayed near the door, far away, as if they were afraid to come closer. Queen Yuna did not move. She did not blink. She just watched Taiho with those silver eyes that seemed older than the stars themselves. "You demand to know why you were taken," she finally said. A voice echoed softly in the chamber. "This is brave. Or perhaps foolish. I am not sure which." "I am a captain," Taiho replied. He kept his voice steady. "My crew depends on me. I have responsibilities. I have duties. You took me away from all of that." The Queen tilted her head slightly. It was the same gesture the keeper had made. Taiho wondered if all Valari did this when they were curious. "Responsibilities," she repeated the word slowly, as if tasting it. "Duties. These are important to you?" "Yes. More important than your own life?" Taiho thought about this. It was not a simple question. He had faced death many times in space. He had always been afraid, but he had always done what needed to be done. "Sometimes," he said honestly, "sometimes the mission is more important than one life. Even if that life is mine." Something changed in the Queen's expression. It was small, just a tiny shift around her eyes, but Taiho noticed it. Was it surprise? Respect? He could not tell. "Sit," the Queen said. She gestured to a spot on the floor in front of her throne. "We will talk." Taiho hesitated. Sitting on the floor felt wrong. It felt like he was lowering himself, accepting his position as a prisoner. But he also knew that refusing might make things worse. He sat down. The floor was warm beneath him, just like the walls of his cell. "I have watched your species for a long time," the Queen began. "Not personally, but through records and studies. Humans are young, very young. In the time my people have existed, your entire species would be just a breath. A single moment." Taiho said nothing. He just listened. "When the Valari first found your planet, your ancestors were still living in caves. They were painting pictures on stone walls and hunting with simple tools. We thought you were like many other young species. We thought you would stay small and simple forever." The Queen stood up from her throne. She walked down the steps slowly, her white dress flowing behind her. She moved with grace that seemed impossible, each step perfectly placed. "But you surprised us," she continued. "You grew. You learned. You built cities and ships. You reached for the stars. In such a short time, you became something remarkable." She stopped a few feet away from Taiho. Up close, he could see that her skin was not solid blue. There were tiny patterns in it, like the veins of a leaf, glowing softly with inner light. "Why are you telling me this?" Taiho asked. The Queen looked down at him. "Because I want you to understand. I want you to know why you are here. Then tell me." For a long moment, the Queen was silent. Then she turned away and walked toward one of the dark walls. She pressed her hand against it, and it began to glow. Images appeared on the wall, like a screen made of light. Taiho saw a planet. It was beautiful, covered in blue oceans and white clouds. It looked almost like Earth, but the continents were different. "This was our home," the Queen said. "Millions of your years ago. We were young then, like you. We grew and learned and built. We reached for the stars, just as you did." The image changed. Now it showed cities, grand and beautiful. Towers of crystal reached toward the sky. Ships flew between buildings. The Valari walked through gardens and streets, their blue skin bright under their sun. "We became powerful," the Queen continued. "We spread across the galaxy. We conquered other species. We took what we wanted. We believed we were the greatest beings in existence." The image changed again. Now it showed war. Ships fighting in space. Cities burning. Valari falling in battle. "We fought among ourselves," the Queen said. Her voice was flat, empty. "We fought with others. We destroyed and killed without thought. We believed that power was everything." Taiho watched the images of destruction. It reminded him of human history, of the wars and conflicts that had almost destroyed Earth before humanity learned to work together. "What happened?" he asked. The Queen turned to face him. There was deep pain in her silver eyes. "We won," she said simply. "We defeated all our enemies. We became the most powerful species in our part of the galaxy. There was no one left to fight. No one left to conquer. That sounds like victory." "It was death," the Queen replied. "We had spent so long fighting that we forgot how to do anything else. We stopped creating. We stopped dreaming. We stopped growing. And then something worse happened." She pressed her hand against the wall again. New images appeared. These showed Valari children, small and delicate with blue skin and silver eyes. But there were fewer and fewer of them in each image. Until finally, there were none. "Our children stopped being born," the Queen said. "Our species had become too old, too tired. Our bodies had stopped making new life. In all the galaxy, we could not find a way to fix this." Taiho felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He was beginning to understand. "How many Valari are left?" he asked. "Less than 1 million. When I was born, there were 50 billion. Now, there are less than 1 million. And each year, more die. No new ones are born." The Queen walked back toward Taiho. She knelt down in front of him, bringing her face close to his. He could see every detail of her features now. The tiny patterns in her skin, the depth of her silver eyes, the sadness that seemed carved into every part of her. "My scientists have studied many species," she said. "They have looked for answers everywhere. And finally, they found something. Something in your species. Something special." "What?" "You adapt," the Queen said. "Humans can change. Your bodies, your minds, even your genes can adjust to new situations. You survive where others die. You grow where others stay the same. This is rare. This is precious. This is what we need." Taiho's heart was beating fast now. He was starting to understand what the Queen was saying, and it frightened him. "What do you want from me?" he asked, though he was afraid of the answer. The Queen stood up. She walked a few steps away, then turned back to face him. "My scientists believe that if Valari genes are combined with human genes, it might be possible to create new life. A child that carries both. A child that has our knowledge and your ability to adapt. A child that can survive where we cannot." Taiho stood up quickly. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to stay standing. You want me to father a child with you?" The Queen nodded slowly. "Yes." Taiho did not know what to say. Of all the things he had imagined, this was not one of them. He had expected torture, experiments, perhaps death. But this? Why me? He asked. Why not someone else? There are billions of humans. Why did you take me? The Queen walked toward a small table that Taiho had not noticed before. On it were several glowing crystals. She picked one up and held it out to him. "Look," she said. Taiho took the crystal. Inside it, he saw images. They were images of himself. Images from years ago, from different parts of his life. He saw himself as a young man, joining the Space Academy. He saw himself graduating at the top of his class. He saw himself saving his crew during a fire on his first ship. He saw himself making peace between two fighting alien species. "We have been watching you for a long time, Park Taiho," the Queen said. "Not just any human would work. We needed someone special. Someone strong in body and mind. Someone with courage and intelligence. Someone who could pass these traits to a child." Taiho set the crystal down. His hands were shaking. "You watched me. You studied me. You chose me like breeding stock." "Yes," the Queen admitted. "I will not lie to you about this." Anger rose in Taiho's chest. "And what if I refuse? What if I say no?" The Queen was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke softly. "Then you refuse. I will not force you. I will not hurt you. I will return you to your ship and your crew, and the Valari will continue to die, one by one, until there are none left." Taiho stared at her. "You would just let me go?" "Yes. No experiments? No punishment?" "No." This surprised Taiho more than anything else. He had expected threats. He had expected violence. He had not expected a choice. "Why?" he asked. "Why give me a choice? Why not just force me?" The Queen looked away. For a moment, she looked almost human, vulnerable, tired. "Because I am tired of taking," she said. "The Valari have taken and conquered and forced for millions of years. It brought us nothing but death. If new life is to begin, it must begin with a choice. A willing choice. Otherwise, it means nothing." Taiho sat back down on the floor. He needed to think. His mind was full of too many thoughts, too many feelings. The Queen was asking him to help save an entire species. A species that had kidnapped him. A species that had once been conquerors and destroyers. But also a species that was dying. A species of less than 1 million souls, waiting for the end. He thought about what he would tell his crew. What he would tell his family back on Earth. How could he explain any of this? "I need time," he said finally. "I need time to think about this." The Queen nodded. "You will have time. I have waited thousands of years. I can wait a little longer." She gestured toward the door. The guards began to walk forward. "Wait," Taiho said. "I have questions." The Queen turned back to him. "Ask," the child. "If it was born, what would happen to it? Would it be Valari? Human? Something else?" "Something new," the Queen said. "Something that has never existed before." A bridge between 03 days passed after Taiho's meeting with the Queen, or at least, he thought it was 3 days. It was hard to tell time in the crystal cell where the light never changed. He spent most of his time thinking. He would sit on the floor for hours, turning the Queen's words over and over in his mind. A dying species. A child that could save them. A choice that was entirely his. On what he believed was the 4th day, something different happened. The wall of his cell opened, but no guards appeared. Instead, the Keeper of New Ones stood in the opening. "The Queen has sent me," the Keeper said in its musical voice. "She wishes you to see our world. She believes it will help you understand." Taiho stood up. "See your world? You mean leave this cell?" "Yes, I will be your guide. You will not be harmed." Taiho thought about this. It could be a trick. But what would be the point? If the Valari wanted to hurt him, they could have done it already. "All right," he said. "Show me." The Keeper led him through the crystal hallways. This time, they went in a different direction. They passed through doors that opened at the Keeper's touch. They climbed stairs that seemed to float in the air. They walked through rooms filled with strange machines and glowing screens. Finally, they reached a large window. It was the first window Taiho had seen since he arrived. Through it, he could see space. Stars glittered in the darkness like diamonds on black cloth. And below them was a planet Dot. It was not the planet Taiho had been studying when he was taken. This planet was different. It was darker, quieter. Clouds of gray and blue covered its surface. There was no green, no sign of life. "Is that your home?" Taiho asked. "No," the Keeper replied. "Our home was destroyed long ago in the wars. This is one of our colony worlds. There are a few left. This one is called Silence." "Silence?" "Because that is all you hear there now. Silence." The Keeper pressed its hand against the wall, and a door opened. Beyond, it was a small ship, sleek and white, like everything else Valari. "Come," the Keeper said. "I will show you." They boarded the ship. It moved without sound, dropping from the larger vessel toward the planet below. Taiho watched through the window as they descended through the gray clouds. What he saw below made his heart ache. It was a city. Or it had been a city once. Grand buildings of crystal and light stretched across the landscape. Towers reached toward the sky. Bridges connected everything in a web of beauty. It was magnificent, but it was empty. The streets were empty. The buildings were dark. Nothing moved. Nothing lived. It was like a photograph of a place that no longer existed. The ship landed in a large square. The Keeper led Taiho outside. The air was cold and thin, but he could breathe. They walked through the empty streets. Their footsteps echoed off the crystal walls. Taiho looked into windows and doorways. He saw furniture covered in dust. He saw toys lying on floors. He saw everything that made up a life, left behind and forgotten. "Where is everyone?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Gone," the Keeper said. "Dead. This city once held 5 million Valari. Now it holds none." "How long ago?" "By your time, about 200 years. Taiho stopped walking. He looked up at the towers that rose above him. 200 years ago. these streets had been full of life. Children had played with those toys. Families had lived in those homes. And now, nothing. How did it happen? He asked. How did an entire city die? The keeper walked to a nearby bench and sat down. It was strange to see the tall, graceful being sit like a tired human. We stopped having children first, the keeper explained. At first, it was just fewer births. Then even fewer. Then none at all. The young grew old. The old grew older. And then they died. One by one, year by year, until no one was left. But why? What caused it? The keeper looked at its hands. Our scientists studied this for thousands of years. They found many reasons. Our genes had become too similar. We had stopped changing, stopped adapting. We had become perfect, but perfection means no growth. And without growth, there is only death. Tai-Ho sat down on another bench across from the keeper. The cold air made his breath come out in small clouds. The Queen said humans can adapt, he said. That our genes are different. Yes, your species is young and wild. Your genes are still changing, still growing. You make mistakes, but you also make new things. You are alive in a way that we have forgotten how to be. And you think mixing our genes could bring that back? The keeper nodded slowly. It is our only hope. We have tried everything else. We have tried science and magic and things you have no words for. Nothing worked. Until we found humans. Tai-Ho stood up and walked to a nearby fountain. It was dry, of course, but he could imagine water flowing in it once. He could imagine Valari children playing around it, splashing each other, laughing. Show me more, he said. The keeper took him to other parts of the city. They visited a school where young Valari had once learned. The desks were small, made for children. Books still sat on shelves, written in a language Tai-Ho could not read. They visited a hospital where the sick had been treated. The beds were empty now, but Tai-Ho could feel the sadness in the air. How many Valari had died in these beds, knowing they were the last of their kind? They visited a nursery. This was the hardest part. The nursery was beautiful. The walls were painted with scenes of stars and planets. Small beds lined the room, each one made for a baby. Toys hung from the ceiling, ready to be played with. Everything was ready. Everything was waiting, but no baby had been born there in over 1,000 years. Tai-Ho felt something wet on his face. He was crying. He had not cried in years, not since his mother died. But standing in this empty nursery, he could not stop the tears. I'm sorry, the keeper said softly. I did not mean to cause you pain. It is not pain, Tai-Ho said, wiping his eyes. It is sadness. Sadness for what was lost, for what could have been. They left the nursery and returned to the ship. As they flew back up through the clouds, Tai-Ho watched the empty city grow smaller beneath them. How many cities like this are there? He asked. Thousands, the keeper replied. On hundreds of worlds. All empty. All silent. Back on the main ship, the keeper led Tai-Ho to a new place. It was a room filled with light. Soft music played from somewhere, gentle and sad. In the center of the room were several Valari. They were old. Much older than the Queen or the keeper. Their blue skin was faded and gray. Their silver eyes were cloudy. They sat in chairs that seemed to support their fragile bodies. These are the elders, the keeper said. They are the oldest of our kind. They remember the time before. One of the elders looked at Tai-Ho. Despite her age, there was intelligence in her eyes. So this is the human, she said. Her voice was thin and weak. Come closer, child. Tai-Ho walked closer. He knelt down so he was at her level. The elder reached out with a shaking hand and touched his face. Her fingers were cold but gentle. Strong, she said. Young, full of fire. I remember when we were like this. Long ago. What was it like? Taiho asked. When your people were young? The elder smiled. It was a sad smile, full of memories. It was wonderful, she said. We dreamed big dreams. We built great things. We loved and laughed and fought and made mistakes. We were alive. And now? Now we wait. We wait for the end. We have been waiting for a long time. Taiho took her cold hand in his warm one. Maybe you do not have to wait anymore. Maybe there is another way. The elder looked at him with surprise. You would help us? After we took you from your home? Taiho thought about this. A week ago, he would have said no. A week ago, all he wanted was to escape and go home. But now, after seeing the empty city, after standing in the silent nursery, everything felt different. I do not know yet, he said honestly. But I am thinking about it. The elder squeezed his hand. That is more than we deserve. Thank you. After leaving the elders, the keeper took Taiho to one more place. It was a garden, the first living thing Taiho had seen on the ship. Plants grew in beds of glowing soil. Flowers bloomed in colors he had never seen before. A small stream flowed through the center, the water clear and bright. And there, sitting on a bench by the stream, was the queen. She looked different here, softer, younger. She wore a simple blue dress instead of her white royal robes. Her feet were bare, touching the grass. Leave us, she said to the keeper. The keeper bowed and walked away. Taiho stood at the edge of the garden, unsure what to do. Come, the queen said. Sit with me. He walked over and sat on the bench beside her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just listened to the water and the soft sound of wind through the leaves. Did you see the city? The queen asked finally. Yes. And the elders? Yes. What do you think? Taiho looked at the plants around them. They were beautiful and strange, like everything Valari. I think you are very sad people, he said. I think you have lost more than anyone should have to lose. I think you are holding on to hope when there is almost none left. The queen nodded slowly. That is true. I also think, Taiho continued, that maybe I have been wrong about you. I thought you were monsters, kidnappers, evil aliens who steal people for experiments. But you are not monsters. You are just dying. And you are scared. The queen turned to look at him. Her silver eyes were wet with tears. We are scared, she admitted. I have lived for 3,000 years. I have seen my people fade away like morning mist. I have. 2 weeks had passed since Taiho's visit to the empty city. In that time, much had changed. He no longer lived in the crystal cell. The queen had given him rooms in the royal section of the ship. They were beautiful rooms, filled with soft light and gentle music. He had a bed that seemed to float on air. He had windows that showed him the stars. He had books about Valari history, translated into his language by machines he did not understand. But most importantly, he had freedom. He could walk the halls of the ship without guards. He could visit the garden whenever he wanted. He could talk to the keeper and the elders, and even the queen herself. He spent many hours with the queen. They would sit in the garden or walk through the quiet corridors, talking about everything and nothing. She told him about her long life, about the friends she had lost, about the dreams she had given up. He told her about Earth, about his crew, about what it meant to be human. Slowly something grew between them. It was not love, not yet. But it was trust. It was understanding. It was the beginning of something real. One evening, Taiho asked to see the scientists who had studied humans. The queen agreed and took him to a large laboratory deep in the ship. The laboratory was filled with equipment that Taiho could not begin to understand. Machines hummed and glowed. Screens showed images of cells and genes, and things too small to see with human eyes. An old Valari scientist greeted them. His name was Keeper of Knowledge, and he had spent 500 years studying human biology. Captain Taiho, the scientist said, bowing his head. It is an honor to meet you in person. I have studied your species my whole life. I have questions, Taiho said. About this plan. About the child. Of course. Please ask. They sat down at a table covered with glowing displays. The Queen sat beside Taiho, quiet but attentive. First, Taiho began. Is this even possible? Can Valari and humans really have children together? The scientist nodded. Yes, we have tested this many times with genetic models. Our species are different, but not so different that combination is impossible. The child would be a hybrid, carrying traits from both parents. What would the child look like? The scientist touched one of the displays. An image appeared, showing what looked like a mixture of Valari and human features. The skin was pale blue, lighter than a full Valari. The eyes were silver, but with dark pupils like a human. The face was delicate but stronger than a pure Valari. This is only a prediction, the scientist said. The real child might look different. But this gives you an idea. Taiho studied the image. It was strange but not ugly. Actually, it was quite beautiful. And the child would be healthy? He asked. Strong? Yes, we believe so. The combination of human adaptability and Valari longevity could create a very strong being. The child would live longer than a human, but might have more energy and growth than a Valari. How long would the child live? The scientist hesitated. We do not know for certain. Possibly thousands of years, like us. Possibly less. It depends on which genes are stronger. Taiho felt the weight of this. Thousands of years. His child could live for thousands of years, long after he was dead and forgotten. What about me? He asked. Would I survive the process? Yes, the process is not dangerous to you. We would simply combine genetic material in our laboratory. You would not be harmed. Taiho nodded slowly. He had more questions, but they could wait. The important ones had been answered. That night, he could not sleep. He lay in his floating bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything he had learned. He thought about his life on Earth, his small apartment, his few friends, his family, most of whom had died or drifted away over the years. There was not much waiting for him back home. He thought about his crew on the horizon. They would have reported him missing by now. Search parties would be looking. But the Valari ship was far beyond human space. No one would find him here. He thought about the Queen, about her sad eyes and gentle voice, about the way she laughed in the garden, surprised by her own joy, about the way she looked at him when she thought he was not watching, and he thought about a child that would be part of him and part of her, a child that could change the future of an entire species. A child that would carry his blood into the stars for thousands of years after he was gone. It was too much. Too big. Too important. He got up and walked to the garden. He knew he would find the Queen there. She often sat by the stream at night, listening to the water. She looked up when he arrived. She did not seem surprised to see him. You cannot sleep either, she said. It was not a question. No. He sat down beside her on the bench. My mind is too full. Mine also. They sat in silence for a while. The artificial stars in the ceiling twinkled softly above them. I have made a decision, Taiho said finally. The Queen turned to look at him. Her silver eyes were wide, afraid of what he might say. I will help you, he said. I will be the father of your child. The Queen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She stared at him as if she could not believe what she was hearing. But, Taiho continued, I have conditions. Things that must be agreed before we do this. The Queen found her voice. Name them. Whatever you want. First, I will not be a prisoner. I will be a partner, equal to you in all decisions about the child. Agreed. Second, the child will know about both its heritages. It will learn about humans and about Valari. It will know Earth and your history and everything that made us who we are. Agreed. Third, I want to send a message to my people, to my crew. They deserve to know I am alive. They deserve to know I am here by choice. The Queen hesitated at this. A message could reveal our location. It could bring humans here. Maybe that is not a bad thing, Taiho said. If our species are going to be joined through a child, perhaps we should not hide from each other. Perhaps this should be the beginning of something larger. The Queen thought about this for a long moment. Then she nodded. You are right. We have hidden for too long. It is time to step into the light. I will allow the message. Thank you. Taiho took a deep breath. And finally, I will stay here. With you. With our child. I will not leave. The Queen stared at him. You would give up your home? Your people? Everything you know? My home is wherever I am needed, Taiho said. And I think I am needed here more than anywhere else. Tears began to fall from the Queen's silver eyes. She did not try to stop them. I do not know what to say, she whispered. This is more than I ever hoped for. More than I deserved. Taiho reached out and wiped a tear from her cheek. Her skin was cool and smooth under his fingers. You asked me once if I wanted to help you, he said. You asked if I wanted to save your people. The answer is yes. But more than that, I want to see what we can build together. Not just a child, but a future. A new kind of future that neither of our species could create alone. The Queen took his hand and held it tight. Then we will build it together, she said. Whatever comes, we will face it together. The next morning, Taiho sent his message. He sat in front of a Valari communication device, looking into a small camera. The message would be sent to the horizon and to Earth. It would take time to arrive, but it would arrive. This is Captain Pog Taiho of the exploration vessel Horizon, he began. I am alive and well. I have not been harmed. I am speaking to you from a ship belonging to the Valari, an ancient species that has traveled the stars longer than humanity has existed. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I know this will be hard to understand. I know you will have many questions. But please, listen carefully. I am staying with the Valari by my own choice. They have asked for my help, and I have decided to give it. I cannot explain everything in this message, but I will tell you what I can. He spoke for nearly an hour. He told them about the Valari and their dying civilization. He told them about the Queen and her desperate hope. He told them about his decision and his conditions. He told them that this was not an ending, but a beginning. I hope that someday humans and Valari can meet as friends, he said at the end. I hope that what we are building here will be a bridge between our peoples. I do not know what the future holds, but I believe it can be good. I believe we can make it good. He took a deep breath. To my crew on the horizon, I am sorry for leaving you. You are good people, and I was proud to be your captain. Please take care of each other. Please remember me, and please do not be afraid. He ended the message. The Queen stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. It is done, she said. Yes. He looked up at her. Now what? Now, she said, we begin. Over the next few weeks, they worked with the scientists. Tests were run. Samples were taken. Plans were made. It was strange and clinical at times, but it was also filled with hope. And slowly, something else began to grow between Taiho and the Queen. The trust they had built became deeper. The understanding became warmer. Late nights in the garden became longer. Conversations became more personal. One night, as they walked through the empty corridors of the ship, the Queen stopped and turned to face him. "May I tell you something?" she asked. "Of course. When we first brought you here, I saw you as a tool, a means to an end, a way to save my people. I am ashamed of this now." Taiho waited for her to continue. "But now," she said, "when I look at you, I do not see a tool. I see a person, a good person, a person I am grateful to know." She reached out and took his hand. "I do not know if what I feel is love. I am not sure I remember what love feels like. But I know that when I am with you, I feel 9 months past. 9 months of waiting and hoping and preparing. 9 months of watching the small life grow inside the special chamber the scientists had built. For Taiho, it was the strangest and most wonderful time of his life. He spent hours every day in the laboratory, watching the screens that showed his daughter developing. He watched her form take shape, watched her tiny heart begin to beat, watched her move and grow stronger. The Queen was with him most of the time. She had stopped doing many of her royal duties. The other Valari did not mind. They understood. After thousands of years of waiting, their Queen had something more important to do. News of the pregnancy had spread through the ship like fire. For the first time in anyone's memory, there was excitement among the Valari. They smiled at each other in the hallways. They talked about the future instead of the past. They started to hope the elders were the most affected. These ancient beings, who had been waiting to die, suddenly had a reason to stay alive. They wanted to see the child. They wanted to hold her, even just once. "I never thought I would see new life," the oldest elder told Taiho one day. "I thought I would go to my end having watched only death. But now I might see a baby. A real baby. It is more than I ever dreamed." Taiho held her thin, cold hand. "You will see her," he promised. "I will make sure of it." The message Taiho had sent to Earth finally received a response. It came 6 months after he sent it, carried across the vast distance of space. The response was from the United Earth Council, the government that ruled humanity. They had many questions and some concerns, but they were also curious. They wanted to learn more about the Valari. They wanted to understand what Taiho was doing. Most importantly, they did not condemn him. They did not call him a traitor or demand he return. They recognized that he had made a choice, and they respected that choice. "We await further communication," the message ended. "And we hope that this is indeed the beginning of something new." The Queen read the message with Taiho. When she finished, she looked at him with wonder in her eyes. "Your people are not angry," she said. "They are not sending warships to find you." "No," Taiho agreed. "Humans can be violent, yes. We have fought many wars. But we can also be curious and open. We can accept things we do not understand." "This is strange to me," the Queen admitted. "When the Valari were young, we would have responded to something like this with force. We would have seen it as a threat." "Maybe that is what made you sick," Taiho said gently. "Maybe always fighting is what made your species stop growing." The Queen thought about this for a long time. "Perhaps you are right," she said finally. "Perhaps we need to learn from humans. Perhaps our daughter will teach us how." The daughter. Everyone talked about her now. What would she look like? What would she be like? What would they name her? Taiho and the Queen discussed names for many nights. They wanted something that meant something in both languages, something that represented both worlds. Finally, they chose. The child would be called Hana in Korean. Hana meant one, the first of her kind, the only one like her in all the galaxy. In the old Valari language, Hana meant flower, something beautiful that grows from nothing and brings color to the world. It was perfect. The day of the birth came on a quiet morning, or what passed for morning on the ship. The scientists had been monitoring the child carefully, and they knew exactly when she would be ready. Taiho and the Queen stood together in the laboratory. Around them were the scientists, the keeper, and several of the elders who had insisted on being there. Everyone was silent, waiting. The chamber that held the child began to glow brighter. Machines hummed and beeped. Numbers flashed on screens, and then a sound, a small sound, a cry, the cry of a newborn baby. The chamber opened, and one of the scientists gently lifted out a tiny form wrapped in white cloth. The baby was crying, her small voice filling the laboratory with life. The scientist carried the baby to the Queen. Everyone held their breath. Queen, Yuna looked down at her daughter. Tears were already streaming down her blue face. Her hands trembled as she reached out to take the child. The baby was small and perfect. Her skin was pale blue, lighter than any Valari. Her eyes, when she opened them, were silver with dark pupils that looked around with curiosity. Her hair was black like Taiho's, but it shimmered with hints of blue. She was beautiful. She was new. She was hope. Hana, the Queen whispered. My Hana, my flower. The baby stopped crying. She looked up at her mother with those strange, wonderful eyes. And then she smiled. Taiho felt tears on his own face. He had never cried so much in his life as he had in these past months. But these were good tears. These were tears of joy so deep that his heart felt like it might burst. The Queen looked up at him. Do you want to hold her? Taiho nodded. He could not speak. The Queen placed the baby in his arms. Hana was so light, so small, so fragile. And yet Taiho could feel the strength in her, the life, the potential. Hello, little one, he said softly. I am your father. I am going to take care of you. I am going to watch you grow. I am going to love you for as long as I live. Hana reached up with one tiny hand and grabbed his finger. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Around them, the Valari watched in wonder. Some were crying. Some were laughing. The elders had expressions of such profound peace that Taiho knew this moment was healing something deep inside them. The oldest elder stepped forward. She looked at the baby with eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. I have lived for 5,000 years, she said. I have seen wonders that no human can imagine. I have watched stars be born and die. But I have never seen anything as beautiful as this. A new life. A new beginning. A new hope. She bowed her head. Thank you, Park Taiho. Thank you for giving us this gift. The other Valari bowed as well. Even the Queen bent her head in respect. Taiho felt embarrassed. I did not do this alone, he said. We did this together. All of us. Yes, the Queen said, lifting her head. Together, and together, we will raise her. Together, we will build a new future. Together, we will show the galaxy that old enemies can become family. Over the next few months, Hana grew quickly. Faster than a human baby, but slower than a Valari one. She was something new, something in between, something that had never existed before. She was curious about everything. She would stare at lights and colors for hours. She would reach for anything within her grasp. She would make sounds that were half human cooing and half Valari singing. The Valari adored her. They took turns visiting, bringing gifts, singing ancient songs to her. For many of them, it was the first time they had seen a baby in centuries. They had forgotten how to act around one. But they learned quickly. Hana brought joy wherever she went. The empty halls of the ship seemed less empty when she was there. The silence seemed less silent when her voice filled the air. One day, when Hana was 6 months old, a message came from Earth. A ship was coming. A human ship carrying diplomats and scientists who wanted to meet the Valari, who wanted to see this miracle child. The Queen was nervous about this. What if they want to take her? She asked Taiho. What if they want to take you both back to Earth? Taiho shook his head. They would not do that. And even if they tried, I would not go. This is my home now. You and Hannah are my family. The Queen looked at him with love in her eyes. Yes, love. They had finally named it a few months ago. It had taken time to grow, time to become real. But it was there now, strong and warm. I love you, she said. I do not think I have ever said it clearly. But I love you, Park Taiho. Taiho smiled. I love you too, Yuna. It was the first time he had used her name without her title. It felt right. It felt like home. The human ship arrived 3 weeks later. It was smaller than the Valari ship, but it was impressive in its own way. Human engineering, human design, human hope. Taiho stood at the entrance to the Valari ship, holding Hannah in his arms. The Queen stood beside him. Behind them were the Keeper, the Elders, and dozens of other Valari who wanted to witness this moment. The airlock opened and humans stepped through. They looked around with wide eyes, amazed by the crystal walls and soft light. The leader of the group was a woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She was the head diplomat, sent by the United Earth Council. Captain Park Taiho, she said, bowing her head. It is an honor to meet you. You are famous on Earth now. The man who bridged 2 species. Taiho bowed back. The honor is mine. Welcome to the Valari ship. The diplomat looked at the Queen, then at the baby in Taiho's arms. Her eyes softened. Is this her? The child? Yes. Taiho turned so she could see better. This is Hannah, our daughter. The diplomat stepped closer, looking at the baby with wonder. Hannah looked back at her, curious and unafraid. She is beautiful, the diplomat said. She is remarkable. She is the future, the Queen said. The future of our people. And perhaps the future of both our peoples. Over the next few days, humans and Valari talked. They shared knowledge and stories. They asked questions and gave answers. It was not always easy. There were misunderstandings and moments of tension. But there was also laughter and discovery and growing respect. The scientists from Earth studied the Valari technology with amazement. The Valari scientists studied human creativity with equal amazement.